Hello, everybody. Uh, Welcome to yet another day on quarantine here, online teaching. Um, it is me, Miss Carter, and today we're going to be going over physical and chemical properties. Um, we've only got a couple lessons left in chemistry, and hopefully, this will help to prepare you guys better for next year. For those of you that will be in the physical science class, the ninth grade science class. Everybody else, it'll help you for the following year when you get into chemistry. So, anyway, today we are looking at physical and chemical properties. You're going to have, besides this video, three things that are going to be on Classroom for you. You've got the notes here, which we're going to go over here in just one second. You've also got, let me see if I can open it. All right, you're also going to have this here that is going to be kind of a note sheet for you that should help you to walk through exactly how you distinguish between physical properties and chemical properties. Um, and so we'll go over this a little bit more later as well. And then you are going to have the assignment, which is right here for physical and chemical properties and changes practice. And it has the date there of when it is. So we'll go over all of those today in our discussions. As always, guys, make sure email me or Miss Mills with any questions that you have, any problems that you're having submitting something, anything like that whatsoever. Okay. And we are also updating on SIS. So if you see something on there that has a 0, it means you haven't turned it in yet, or you didn't turn it in on time, or whatever. And so once it's finished, if you need to either resubmit it or email us to let us know that it has been updated so we can change up your grade. Okay? All right, so let's start off with physical properties. Basically, whenever you have any kind of matter, and actually, we can start here with this here. Matter is what makes up all of the objects around us, okay? And so the properties of matter, as you can see here, to determine what type of matter we're talking about, we say, are the properties determined without changing the identity of the substance, okay? So, for example, I've got my little guy here that covers uh, my browser, or covers my computer, so that whenever I don't want to be online visually, this is on there. But anyway, so I've got this little guy, and some of his properties are some of the things we're going to kind of talk about today. But to determine those properties, we ask ourselves, by determining it, are we changing it anyway? You know, is it still this? Is it still this plastic piece that still has, you know, the same red color, same basic properties, same basic characteristics of it? Okay, and so we look, and if the answer is no, that the properties have not been changed uh, without changing the identity of the substance, then we go to chemical. If it has been, then we go to physical properties. Okay. And so some of the chemical properties are here that we're going to be looking through. Some of the physical properties are here. Okay, so let's start off with physical. So, physical properties are characteristics that can be observed without changing the identity of the substance. Okay, so we're not changing exactly what it looks like, its shape. Um, you're just kind of looking at it and or using the main senses to be able to determine some characteristics about it. Okay, so excuse me. Some examples would be shape. I can use visual to be able to determine that the shape of this, you know, you've got the eyes, you've got the little hands on the side here, so I can determine its shape. Okay, I don't have to change it in order to determine that. So that is a physical property. If I were to weigh this, I could determine its weight slash mass, and again, not change it in any way to do that. I could determine its color, it's red and white and black, again, visually. Volume. I could determine its volume. We have this down here to kind of remind you how I would do that. If it was a block or something that had a definite length, width, and height, then I would just multiply those three things to get its volume. But for odd things like this, remember, you take it and you drop it in a graduated cylinder with some liquid in it. How much the water goes up is the displacement of it, and so that is its volume there. So we can determine its volume without changing it. Its texture, you guys aren't able to do that on the online here, but I can see, or I can feel that it's smooth. It's got a couple rough edges with the hands here, but again, I can determine its texture, and I haven't changed it. Melting point. Now, this is where it gets kind of tricky to like, okay, but you're changing it, but actually I'm not. If I were to take this and put it in a pot on the stove, or even, which I don't recommend this, but I could even put it, like, say, in the microwave or something like that, which could be cause it rather messy. But anyway, if I were to melt this, remember everything has a melting point. If I were to melt this, it would not look like this anymore, okay? But it would still be the plastic that makes this up, okay? And so therefore, it's still the same thing, all right? And so therefore, that is a physical property, okay? I haven't changed it into something else. By me melting this plastic, the plastic doesn't turn into rock or something like that, okay? And so that's how we know that it is a physical property. It's still plastic, okay? Boiling point, same way. Strength, hardness, and magnetism. I could break this. I don't really want to because I kind of like it. But if I were to bend it apart, I could determine how strong it was, again, without changing it. Hardness, the same way. Magnetism, it's plastic, so it's not magnetic, but there are some substances, if they, stick to the fridge or whatever, that is a physical property, okay? We don't change it in order to determine that. Okay, so again, the big ones there that are kind of usually the ones that are the tripping points are melting point and boiling point. People have some kind of difficulty saying, well, is it really still the same substance because it looks different? It's still plastic, okay? So it's still a physical property, okay? All right, another property here that you can use with physical property is density, which we kind of talked about just a minute ago with the volume. And basically, volume is a part of density. If you remember, you guys had an assignment with this not too long ago, where density is volume and mass put together. How much mass is in a certain volume. So density is also a physical property, and this measure of how much matter is in a certain volume. So, for example, if you take the stone here and you drop it to the bottom of a pond or bottom of a graduated cylinder, the amount of water that rises or is displaced is the exact volume of the water, and can help us to determine the density of it. Okay, so by doing that, again, we're not changing the rock in any way, so it is still a physical property. Okay, all right, so that is physical properties. Hopefully that makes a little bit of sense for you. Then we've got chemical properties. Now, chemical properties describe how a substance changes into a new substance, okay? This is where you're actually creating something new. Now, we're going to be working with this. Sorry, hold on a second. We're going to be working with this later on. I think it's actually the beginning of next week, with when we do create new substances. Exactly how does that work? And we're going to talk about something called the conservation of mass, and how you don't actually create something new, you're kind of transferring it. Okay, but so anyway, a chemical property is something that is described how a substance changes into a new substance. Okay, this happens by combining with other elements or by breaking apart new substances or into new substances. So, like I said, you're not creating something new; you're just combining or tearing apart what's already there. Okay. Examples for chemical properties would be flammability, which is, again, the ability to burn, flame, flammable. And then reactivity is the ability to combine with another substance. Iron and oxygen reacting to form rust is an example of that. Okay. And And so that's two of the big chemical properties there: flammability and reactivity, how likely it is to join. Okay, and we talked about that for a couple weeks now. All right, the main differences in physical and chemical properties are that it is easier to observe physical properties. Like I said, the things that we use our senses more on, and we're not really putting in a whole lot of effort a lot of times to be able to observe them. Okay. Um, with chemical properties, you can observe them when you see a change happening. So the big changes here again with chemical properties would be like fire here with wood burning, with rust on the car, or baking, basically any kind of cooking where you add heat to create a new food. So, like for example, taking this dough, mixing the ingredients in together by themselves, usually is not going to be just putting all the ingredients together is not going to cause a physical change, or sorry, chemical change. However, once you add heat to it, there is a chemical reaction that happens. Okay. There is an exception to that, like if you add yeast or certain things like that into it, because it does cause a chemical reaction, and a heat does actually apply there as well. Okay, so those are the two big things with the differences and similarities between physical properties and chemical properties. All right, then, and again, this will kind of help you with some of the examples when you go to do those later on. Then you've got for your assignment here. Just a little bit of a refresher as to what's the difference between a physical and chemical property at the top of it. And then, so your assignment today, pretty simple, pretty straightforward. On the first 10 here, you're going to identify the following as either a chemical or a physical property. Okay, look back at the list. Okay, both the list and the notes that I gave you have pretty much most of these already listed on it. Okay, if not, I mean, you can always Google, but like I said, it's all right there. Okay, so you're just going to either put a C or a P on each of these lines. Okay, then for the last 5 here, you're going to say true or false to each of them as far as what happens in a physical change, chemical changes, or physical properties, chemical properties. This is kind of going to lead into our discussion for Thursday from Miss Mills, with the changes, what happens when something changes physically and what happens when something changes chemically. Okay, so you're just basically taking those properties and kind of taking them the next step. Okay, I think that's it for us today. Like I said at the beginning, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email us. With me, if you're on my remind, you can also text me. Either way, I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Double check your SISs, make sure that you're getting those things turned in. Okay, and I will talk to you guys later. Thanks. Bye.